Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Shari Tefillah as we commemorate Yom HaShoah. The full name of the day commemorating the victims of the Holocaust is Yom HaShoah v'Hagvura, literally the day of remembrance of the Holocaust and the heroism. We mark it on the 27th day of the month of Nisan, a week after the 7th day of Passover and a week before Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day for Israel's fallen soldiers. The date was selected by the Knesset in 1951. Although the date was established by the Israeli government, it has become a day commemorated by Jewish communities and individuals worldwide. The Shoah, the Holocaust, posed an enormous challenge to Judaism and raised many questions. Can one be a believing Jew after the Holocaust? Where was God in those events? How can one have faith in humanity? Facing this history, does it really matter if one practices Judaism at all? Jewish theologians and laity have struggled with these questions for decades. The very fact that Jews still identify Jewishly, practice their religion, and have embraced the observance of Yom HaShoah answers some of the questions raised by the Holocaust. We are the last generation who may still meet survivors of the Holocaust. We are now the witnesses. It is on us to be the carriers of the memory of those who died, those who survived, and of those who resisted. Tonight we gather to remember, we gather to say, we are still here. We gather to affirm from a place of memory that the Jewish people lives and thrives and strives for a better future for ourselves and for all humanity. As we begin tonight, we will light these 6 yahrzeit candles for the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. I've invited some friends to come forward to light a candle, so if I invited you, please come up at this time.
שנשרף והצית להבות. אשרי הלהבה שברא בסתרי לבבות. אשרי הלבבות שידעו לחדול בכבוד. אשרי הגפרור שנשרף והצית להבות. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that softly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the hearts that like flickering lights knew to flutter and die without shame. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. So we're really grateful today to have Avi Wisnia with us. Avi was our song leader in the nursery school and religious school for many years. He was my son's song leader in the nursery school and religious school. And just some background on Avi. He's an award-winning singer, songwriter, storyteller, and educator based in Philadelphia. He performs in prestigious venues around the world, from the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City to the Kennedy Center in DC, to concert tours in Japan, Poland, and Brazil. In addition to being a performing artist, he's given a TED Talk and performed with the Moth Storytellers. And he's featured in the film we're about to see, How Saba Kept Singing. This film was premiered on PBS and was nominated for an Emmy Award. The film chronicles the travels of Avi's grandfather and Avi performing music together as Cantor Wisnia recounts his incredible story of surviving the Holocaust by singing. Since his grandfather's recent passing, Avi continues to share his Saba's stories and songs with communities young and old to educate and to ensure that we never forget. So I'm going to turn it over to Avi.
Thank you so much, Cantor, Rabbi, and everyone here at Temple Sha'arei Tefillah. It is great to be back with you 15 years later after singing songs like The Moose and The Carrots Have Seeds and Shalom Chaverim. I'm sorry if you were expecting those hits tonight. It's not quite what we're here for. But walking in these doors, again, after being here for 10 years, working with some of your children and seeing you again, really is so meaningful to be back here. For so many reasons, because this is the place where that helped me kind of cut my teeth as a musician, playing around the city, and knowing that you were so supportive. And I did learn a lot teaching music here to all of your children and leading Tat Shabbat. I really learned a lot about the importance of transmitting culture through music, how we learn from each other through music, how we speak to each other through music, how we tell our stories through music. And so after when I went back to Philadelphia, which is where my family is from, and my Saba raised his family outside of Philadelphia, I was used to playing music and going on the road. I never thought I would be doing it with my 90-year-old grandfather. But that's sort of the connection, the thing that bonded us most was music. And I realized for all of my life, I always knew that my Saba as the cantor, the grand singer. He had two pulpits, one in Temple Shalom in Pennsylvania and one at Har Sinai in Trenton, New Jersey. And he came to this city often to sing. He had a lot of friends. He would take me out to dinner, which I always enjoyed. And that's also not just how he related to people through music, but also through food, which I think is also a very Jewish thing. But my grandfather was always a singer. And I always knew that he used his voice to help save his life. Singing is literally how my grandfather saved his life during one of the darkest chapters of humanity, during the Holocaust. But as I got older and started asking questions, we realized that this was not the only way that he survived. No one could have survived something like the Holocaust alone. And through my grandfather's stories, and I had the honor and privilege of hearing so many other stories, you learn each one of them is fantastical and horrifying and tragic and triumphant and unique, each in their own ways. And I'm so grateful that I got to hear my grandfather's story while he was still alive to tell it in his own voice. And I hope that tonight when you hear his story, it helps shed light on all those other stories that we may never hear or had a chance to hear. For those that are no longer with us, that we commemorate during this Yom HaShoah. For those that are still with us, but that carry those deep, dark, tragic stories with them, never able to tell them. I hope that my grandfather's story sheds light on that context, that we learn a little bit more and are able to remember what happened, because it happened. For a long time, my grandfather did not talk about this story with his family, also some of who are here tonight. Those of us that grew up with him, some of who are here tonight. There are bits and pieces that he never shared, but I'd like to think that it was the music that helped him open up towards the end of his life. And I learned from him that music can be very helpful in that way. Sometimes it helps us articulate things that we can't quite say in words. And so towards the end of his life, even though he didn't share the story, my grandfather, Saba, David Wisnia, started to open up more and more about this story, until he was finally ready to put it on record. And so that's what you're going to hear tonight, this story of how he survived, of our trip back to Poland that we took a few years ago right before he passed away. And in fact, this temple was one of the first places that we went. You'll see a clip of us from 2015. On the first trip that we took together, and this temple was one of the first places that me and my Saba came to tell our story about that trip, and was one of the first places where he really started to share his story and his music. So again, another layer of why it's so special to be here in this sanctuary with you. And so you're going to hear his story and also his music, because the two are intertwined. And I know this is not an easy story to hear, because it was not an easy story to tell. But another thing I learned from being around my grandfather is the power of having a community that's willing to listen. For those that have experienced trauma, for those that are going through sorrow and grief, because it was only when people in the community would ask my grandfather and say, if and when you are ready to tell your story, we will listen. That's when he really started to share his music and his story and open up even more. And so tonight you're providing that space again for him to tell his story, and again to hear it in his own voice and the music. And not only is his music intertwined in the film itself, in the soundtrack that you will hear, in the performances that we did, but the director of the film, Sara Taksler, asked me if she could include a composition that I wrote inspired by a reunion that you'll see in the film. And so what I'm going to ask of you is, at the end of the film, and for those who are online and live streaming it, when we come back from our break, we're going to sit and watch the credits together and just take a moment to sort of process and sit with the story that we just saw. And instead of listening to the recorded music, I'll play it for you live. And then we'll transition out of the film into a little bit of discussion and a prayer to conclude. Now, my grandfather always included music in his presentations, so I'll do the same tonight. And we're going to not only end with music, but begin with music. And before we do that, I know we have a quick technical announcement about how people on the live stream can join. So I'll let Cantor do that, because I don't understand technology at all.
So for those, this is announcements for people who are watching on the live stream. Once we move to the film, you can click the link found in the video description or follow the instructions on the screen to watch the video at home while we're watching it here in the sanctuary. The live stream will remain active, and we will return for a discussion with Avi and the musical performance in approximately 75 minutes after the movie begins. Don't go far. We'll see you soon, and you can join in afterwards for the rest of it.
I took a lot of cues from my grandfather when I would see him tell the story. And I know during the film there will be parts that will make your heart swell and may make you cry, and I think that is certainly okay to feel those feelings. But there will also be parts that will make you smile and that will make you laugh. I learned from my grandfather also how sorrow and joy are often intertwined, how pain and humor interplay with each other. And so if you find yourself laughing and crying even at the same time, I think that's pretty natural, and I encourage you to do so. One of those songs that often made people cry that he would sing is a song that he learned from his time when he first got to the United States and he lived in New York City. He would go to the Second Avenue Theater, famous Yiddish theater, and there he heard a song made famous by Sophie Tucker that really spoke to his longing for his family that was no longer alive. It's a very famous song, and so for those young ones among us tonight, I encourage you to look up this song. It is a song that is still covered to this day, that endures. It's also the power of music. A good song is a good song, no matter when it was written. It's a song that my grandfather would sing, and it's a song that I think is an anthem for all of us who have family members who may be able to trace their lineage far back. Maybe they have one of their limbs on their family tree cut tragically short. But for all of us who have people in our lives, in our families, who have come before us, who have sacrificed for us, hoping for us for a better life, and holding on to some pain from the places that they come from, this is a song for those people that we love. This is called My Yiddish Mama. I should be thankful for, I've had a goodly share, and as I sit here in the comfort of my cozy chair, my fancy takes me to a humble east side tenement, 3 flights up in the rear to where my childhood days were spent. It wasn't much like paradise, but amidst the dirt and oh, there sat the sweetest angel, one that I fondly call my Yiddish mama. I need her more than ever now. My Yiddish mama, I long to kiss that wrinkled brow. I long to hold her hand once more, as in days gone by, and ask her to forgive me for things I did that made her cry. How few were her pleasures, she never cared for fashion styles. Her jewels and her treasures, she kept them in her baby smiles. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that wonderful Yiddish mama, mama of mine. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that wonderful Yiddish mama, mama. Oh, mine. Thank you so much. And now let us discover together how Saba kept singing. They stole us and took our names away. When we held our breath just to last till the end of the day. My eyes blurred with blood till you showed me the way. How long has it been since I've seen you? How long has it been? How long has it been since I've seen you? How long it's been? We survived the war, and I got out and shed off my skin. And this perfume masks the smoke of the hell we lived in. And yet I never knew what happened to you. How long has it been since I've seen you? How long has it been? How long has it been since I've seen you? How long has it been since I've seen you? How long has it been? How long has it been since I've seen you? How it's been. I thank you for sharing in my Saba's story tonight. As I mentioned at the top, there are some Wisnias here tonight, some Wisnias who you saw in the film. There are some members of our family that grew up with Saba, with David Wisnia. There are some of you in this congregation that met him throughout your lives. Maybe he officiated a wedding or a bat mitzvah, or you went to the Moishenitzi diner with him. I know there are many of you that never got to meet my Saba. I know some of you have connections in your family to the Holocaust. Perhaps for some of you, this is the first time hearing the story of a survivor. But no matter what your background or your experience, tonight, even though my grandfather is no longer with us, he got to share his story in his own voice, and you got to hear him tell it. And that is so important. Where we sit right now in this time, in this year, in this month, in this day, we are losing those firsthand accounts of what happened in the Holocaust, accounts like what my grandfather went through. And when we lose those accounts, what happens is sometimes those holes in history get left open only to be filled by misinformation or propaganda or denial. When you hear my grandfather's story tonight, you get to say that you met David Wisnia, that you met my Saba, that you know his story. When you hear a witness, you become a witness. My grandfather's story will always be a part of me. His music will always be a part of me. But now that you have heard it, it is also a part of you, and you can help share that story. Before I leave you tonight, I'll play you one more song. It's a song that you heard a little bit about in that film. A song composed by my grandfather while a prisoner in Auschwitz that he was able to smuggle out and get the words out. And before he passed away, I was able to translate with him, to sit down with him and translate those words into English. Because, as he said, I held on to this story for so long, and now I want the world to hear it. And now, with this film, with his songs, the world can continue to hear his story. So I'll play you this last song, a song that he composed, and then we'll do just a few closing words and one final video from my grandfather. This is a song that he wrote called Oswiecim, which the Germans called Auschwitz. I remember it so clearly, my days in Oswiecim. Got out alive just nearly, and still the name it stings. Still I see that place, enduring like the scars I can't erase. Appel, Abstand, Mieten ab. Hear the sergeants call. You'll wish you were never born at all. Oswiecim, through pain and sickness, always working. Oswiecim, with death behind you, always lurking. Oswiecim, Oswiecim, evil like some twisted dream. Never mind the hope of fleeing, hunger is the only feeling. Oswiecim, like numbers on my arm, it lingers. Oswiecim, I curse you with my broken fingers. Oswiecim, Oswiecim, heart be hard as stone. Hatred is the greenest weed you've grown. Oswiecim, 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 evil like some twisted dream. Never mind the hope of fleeing, hunger is the only feeling. Oswiecim, like numbers on my arm, it lingers. Oswiecim, I curse you with my broken fingers. Oswiecim, Oswiecim, heart be hard as stone. Hatred is the greenest weed you've grown. On this Yom HaShoah, on this day of remembrance, on this night together, I think of how powerful one voice can be. I learned that from my grandfather. Our voices carry incredible power. When we speak up and when we are silent, when we choose to speak out and when we choose to listen. My grandfather did save himself using his voice, but that was not the only way he survived. He could not have survived alone. His story is full of examples of people that chose to hurt in ways big and small, in ways unimaginable, in ways very ordinary. But his story is also full of people that chose to help. From the non-Jewish neighbors who tried to smuggle him from place to place so he could avoid being sent to a concentration camp when he left the ghetto. From the members of the 101st Airborne of the United States Army that took a chance on a dirty kid they found in the street who was orphaned, and though they didn't have to, brought him on and brought him to a new home and gave him a new life. To Tzippi, who put her life on the line numerous times to save his and countless others. I think about my grandfather always, but especially at this time, and how when he started to tell his story and travel, and he loved talking to young people the most, he would tell them this story that there is a verse in the Bible, in our Torah, where God tells Abraham, be a blessing. And that was always his message to the next generation, to those of us that are still here. May we be a blessing. We choose every day to hurt or to help. May we be the ones who help in times of need. May we be the ones who remember how responsible we are for each other. Although tonight is not a service, I'd like to close with a prayer that my grandfather sang in the site of Auschwitz itself. And I was fortunate enough to travel with him 70 years later as he returned to that site, no longer a prisoner, but as a survivor. And he stood in front of hundreds of survivors and dignitaries from around the world and an audience of millions on live TV. And he sang a song, a Jewish prayer for the departed. As we end tonight, I'm so grateful that my grandfather chose and was able to continue to share his story and his voice. So we'll hear from him one last time as he leads us in this prayer for the departed, as we think about those we knew who were lost and those we may never know. The 6 million Jews, the 13 million total souls lost during World War II, the immeasurable amount of pain and suffering for those who even still lived. If you feel able to and would like to, you may rise as we listen to David Wisnia sing El Malay Rachamim.
El Malay Rachamim.
Before you leave tonight, again, I want to thank Cantor and Rabbi, and we'll turn it back over to them for any closing words. I want to thank you for welcoming me and my Saba back into this sanctuary. It is so nice to be in community with you again, with friends old and new. For those interested in more of this film on your way out, and I'll greet you in the back, there are cards. Please take one with you. It has information on where this film will be screened next and how you can share it. And for those who've joined us online, thank you for joining us. As my grandfather's story has been shared, it has always been by word of mouth. It was always by people asking him his story. And the fact that his story continues to resonate to this day is so meaningful and such a gift to me and our family. I think about his tattoo that was on his arm like so many others. The Nazis gave him a number because it's easier to kill someone when you strip away their humanity. When we remember stories like this on Yom HaShoah, we give back names to those numbers. We give our loved ones back their story. Thank you for sharing in the story tonight. May we never forget.
Can we just hear it one more time for Avi for being here with us tonight? I think I speak for everyone that the movie and having you here was just extremely powerful and moving. And I've always known your kind soul and how talented you are, but having you here with us and sharing your grandfather's story here was just so moving and powerful, and I want to thank you for being with us. Can we just one more time thank Avi for being here? And thank you all for coming to remember this day. There are cards outside that you can pick up on the table outside that tell more about David Wisnia's story, that you can go on a website to find more.